Nadir in Florida, you want to talk about the Quran and how science proves the Quran is from God?
Yes. So I'm basically a Muslim apologist, and it's going to be a little bit difficult doing all that over the phone, but I'll go ahead and
it'll be really easy.
And maybe we could.
No, this will be really easy because we can start with a simple question.
Yeah.
How could someone possibly show from a divine being? What criteria would we need to demonstrate to show that a book could not have been written by human beings and must have been from the mind of a god? How do you show that?
Yeah. So what we actually have are statements in the Quran which agree with modern science, which a person 1,400 years ago could not have had that knowledge. And so the question
No, sir.
How...
Nadir?
Hello?
I asked what the criteria was, and you went in immediately into standard Muslim apologetics. I wanted to know what the criteria was, how we could show that something did not come from a human mind and instead came from the mind of a god.
And I just explained it to you, and I'll do it.
No, sir, you didn't. You just said that the Quran contains things that someone 1,400 years ago wouldn't have known. Now, first of all, you'd have to demonstrate that they didn't know them. Then you'd have to demonstrate that they couldn't know them, that the only explanation for them saying this, because quite often it's not something where it's like, here's some knowledge to the world from God.
Yeah.
There's not knowledge to the world from God. Okay.
No,
and it doesn't become knowledge until we test it. So a God saying something, if God says, hey, there's little things that you can't see, and so it would be good to wash your hands, and to clean off your food before you eat. Okay. If if portrayed as a message from God, that's interesting, but that's not what we get. What we get are things that are only interpreted as being scientifically accurate after we discover that they're correct. As a matter of fact, some of them have gone through multiple things, but even if the Quran and the Bible and another book all said, here's how the universe began. If we later found that there were similarities in the order of creation events, that doesn't mean that the author of that knew that it was correct. Right?
Right. Okay. So I actually don't disagree with you. I think you've brought up some fallacies some people do bring up. What we can prove is that there's no natural explanation for the information in the Quran when it pertains to science. Now,
no, you can't prove that. You can't prove that there's no natural explanation. That's just an assertion.
Okay. Well,
how would you show that there's no natural explanation? Because wouldn't you have to be, for anything, wouldn't you have to be omniscient to know that there's no natural explanation, and not that there's just not an explanation that you're satisfied with yet?
No, we can definitely prove it. Well, first of all, how we're going to do that is by eliminating the natural explanations. For example.
No, sir. I got to pause because we're over time and you're not getting this fundamentally critical idea.
Well,
and that is.
Listen, why don't we debate this on modern day debate show? Because you didn't get an opportunity. So I'm challenging you right now. Are you going to do it? Yes or no?
Have we spoken before? Do I know you? I don't arrange my own debates. Why don't you get a hold of Modern Day Debates? And if you want to have this debate, let them know. And then I don't arrange those debates here. I don't know you from a hole in the wall, but what I do know is that you don't understand the concept of falsifiability if you think you can look at a book and say, well, there's no natural explanation for how somebody could have known that, because you're already presuming that they knew it rather than they just claimed it. You're describing it as knowledge, which means that your argument is ultimately circular.
You didn't even give me an opportunity to present my case. I know we're over time.
Yes, we're over time.
Yeah, no,
Yeah, I asked you questions, and you did not answer them. What is the criteria that would show that something comes from the mind of a god and not from the mind of a human? What is the criteria?
Yes. Okay, would you like for me to answer now?
No, actually, I'm going to hang up on you because that was some smug shit, because I asked you this question a while ago and you didn't answer it. And now I'm asking you again, and you've decided to be, shitty and say, oh, would you like me to answer you now? Of course because I just asked you the fucking question like I did a while ago. I wanted you to answer it the first time I asked.
You keep interrupting me. That's why.
You asked me a question, sir, and I replied to your question. And by the way, it's our show, and I'm trying not to waste everybody's time. What is the criteria under which you can tell that a particular sentence comes from the mind of a God and could not come from the mind of a human?
That you cannot prove that, but the proof.
Thank you for admitting that you cannot prove it. Goodbye. Have a nice time. I don't know that there'll be any likelihood that we'll be going on to modern day debates, but if you cannot prove the one thing that we need to prove, the whole case there is, this couldn't have come from a human being. It must be from a God. Okay, what's the criteria? Oh, well, you can't prove that. I know. Exactly. That's why I said it wasn't falsifiable. That's why even before you challenged me to your debate, I demonstrated that you don't understand the subject and the critical nature of falsifiability.
And of course, I've heard a lot of these, they tend to be this flowery language that isn't even specifically a claim or specifically knowledge being handed off. It's very frustrating.